Welcome to another The CPA podcast. Today we're going to be talking about passive income, which one of my favorite topics to talk about.
It's a very trigger word.
It is a trigger
especially
word.
with the YouTube algorithm.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And everyone wants passive income, but they don't necessarily know what it takes to get there. And there's a lot of different strategies nowadays.
Tons of different strategies. I know one of the big ones that you hear a lot is real estate. How passive income can, set you financially free, and what that really entails. Passive income, I think the word that people kind of misconstrue as passive, what does that actually mean? You can have a ton of rentals, but if you are managing those rentals and making that money, how much of that money is really passive? Right. You're hands-on, you're going to each rental property, you're talking to the tenants, you're collecting rents. In my opinion, that's not really passive. What passive income would be is if you have those rentals and you spend an extra $100, $200 a month, you have a property manager to where you are totally hands off. Right. So where some of that passive income can come into play, and it's a power in numbers thing. Say after all your expenses, mortgage, taxes, insurance, management companies, you net $200. Right. 100 doors at $200, that truly is $20,000 a month in passive income. You're not collecting rents, you're not, managing tenants. You really are truly passive. So that is that's one of the strategies that people can use to let passive income make them financially free.
Right. And the other thing that I know that people don't always take into account is that if you're a landlord, you might break even on like the rent covers mortgage and repairs. You might just break even.
Sure.
But what people don't take into account is the equity that's being built up.
Sure.
Because if you own the mortgage and the renters are paying you and then you're turning around and paying that mortgage off, you might not see in terms of direct cash flow that passive income, but it's still passive in that your equity is passively increasing month over month.
Sure.
And so that can be definitely really nice.
It is. I think when people stress the passive, they are talking about the cash flow. They're talking about the monthly.
Like they want it to come in, hit their bank account.
Exactly. So it's the house value. You'd love to always hope that your house value goes up. That's the appreciation. It's something that you can't really physically feel, touch. You just hope that it's there based on the history of real estate. But in terms of the passive income, we are talking about the monthly cash flow after all possible expenses are paid off.
Right. And then in that case, you do need to make sure your rent is at the right price so that you are getting that cash flow.
And it kind of goes, everybody has a personal preference. Most management companies, anywhere 5-10% of the rents. If the difference of you making $400 and being hands-on as opposed to $200 a month and you're totally hands-off, you kind of have to think, is that $200 a month worth, the headaches of answering calls and, having the conversations directly with the tenants, collecting rents. So I've always been a proponent of, on your rental properties, pay a management company. Most of the time people don't get into real estate because they want to be landlords. They want to have passive income. And it's not truly passive if you are hands-on. It's essentially another job.
Right. And for some people who really would prefer a more hands-off form, one thing they can look into is a dividend portfolio. Those are becoming, especially during COVID and after COVID, that was super popular amongst the finance gurus out there. Mm-hmm. And the idea of a dividend income, so there's a lot of dividend stocks. And so you buy a dividend stock, and then it'll pay you, let's say, a 1%, 2%, sometimes 3 or 4% dividend. And that's paid quarterly. So the companies do their financials, and then they pay dividends to anyone who owns their stock. And that really is, I feel like, one of the purest forms of passive income.
Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
That's how he made his money, all dividend stocks. I believe Coca-Cola was one of his big ones.
That one's a big one for sure. I Berkshire Hathaway, funny enough, does not pay dividends
Interesting.
because his logic is we do better with their money than they will, I guess, if we gave them a dividend. And Apple was the same way for such a long time. Berkshire Hathaway has huge holdings in Apple now, but Apple changed their tune and was like, all right, we'll pay a dividend.
Gotcha.
And now they've been paying pretty solid dividends, actually.
Sure.
So really, there's lots of stocks. You can also just do some type of broad market dividend index, and that'll give you the same result of that passive dividend income. Of course, you can take it two ways. You can have the dividends reinvest themselves, and then it's not really passive income. It's more just passive reinvestment, I guess. Or you can have the dividends actually pay you cash, and you could take that out of your account. Be wary of capital gains tax because dividends aren't tax free. The only ones that are tax free need to be in an IRA, and you still can't take the money out of the account. They would just be sitting in there, and then you can reinvest them in something else. So, in my opinion, if you have it in an IRA, you should just reinvest your dividends because you're not going to use the cash anyway. So you may as well just let it snowball over time. So today, we kind of covered real estate and dividends. Those are two ways you can generate passive income. Tune into our next podcast. We're going to do a part 2 of this series on passive income. Go more into social media, the 4% rule, royalties, and some creative ways you can finance the sale of a business. All ways that you can create passive income and really give yourself that freedom that you deserve.
See you next week, guys.
Like, comment, and subscribe.